Good morning, Chair.
Chairman is out. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Chair. It's 10 o'clock now, but can you please wait a few minutes for other members to join? Because there are only a few members that have joined.
Yeah, I can see we're only 3.
Yes, Chair.
Chair was there in the meeting and he left. I don't know what is
He's
the
trying
problem.
to join now. He's trying to join back.
Okay,
Okay, Chair.
sure.
Good morning, honorable members.
Morning, Chair.
How are you doing, honorable Disney?
I'm trying.
You are trying.
But 80% now.
Okay.
90.
90%.
90%.
No, that's fine. I think
90%.
we should. Yes, morning, honorable Arnold. Honorable Arnold, how are you?
Good and well, Chairperson. And yourself?
I'm good.
Sure.
Thank you very much, honorable members. I think we should start. It's 10 o'clock now. I saw amongst the list the DM is also part of our meeting. I don't know. Yeah, I saw him among the list of attendees. Good morning, honorable members. Let me take this opportunity to welcome you to this session that we are having with the Department of Communications as well as Centec. Let me also take this opportunity to welcome the delegation from the ministry and Centec. Like I said, I saw on the list the DM. I don't know whether the minister is also here, but I saw the deputy minister being part of our meeting. We want to take this opportunity to welcome the department together with Centec so that we can start with our select committee meeting. We have requested them to come and make a presentation to us. We'll give them an opportunity to do the presentation. We will
Recording
hand over
in
to
progress.
the ministry to start, and then they will direct in terms of who should be making the presentation moving forward. Like I said, I only saw the DM. I don't know whether the minister is there. If the minister is there, she will take over. If the minister is not there, the DM then will deal with the introductions, and then we move to the presentation. I'll just check from our committee secretary if there are any apologies that you have received.
Good morning, Chair, and the honorable members. No, I have not received any apologies, Chair.
Okay.
Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Honorable Arnold.
Yes, good morning to everyone. Commissar Makause has put in an apology. She is sick.
Okay. We note that apology. If there are any apologies from the ministry, we'll hear it from them. If there are any further apologies, we are handing over to the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies to do the introductions, and then they will direct us in terms of the process moving forward. DM.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Matibi, and good morning to all the honorable members who are attending this session this morning. And thank you, Chair, for inviting us to present on the financial impact that is being experienced by Centec as a result of the debt that is keeping on being accumulated from the community broadcasters. Chair, the minister is not in the country. She's accompanying the president on a visit to outside of the country. So she's part of that delegation. She won't be able to be with us this morning. I will be leading the delegation from the department. With us, Chair, is the Acting Director General of the department. She's joining us, as well as some officials from the department, together with the delegation from Centec. So I will be doing an overview just to introduce the issues and highlight what are the key issues. And the entity will take us, will take the committee through the details of their presentation, which I believe they've already shared with the committee. If that's fine, Chair, I will continue. Chair, we you have requested Centec, the department, to come and brief you, as I said, on the impact of the debt that is there. There is some history to this debt, Chair. There's been about 2 bailouts of the community broadcasters' debt, which is being accumulated by Centec for signal distribution. In 2016, the then Department of Communication bailed out, they paid about 12 million for the debt. Again, in 2018, there was another bailout of 23 million, which was paid by the then Department of Communication. The current account is sitting at 76 million, which has been owed by the community broadcasters to Centec, and it comprised of 73 million by the community radio and 3 million by community TV. When you look at this debt and the history of it, it's quite clear that, and this is also picked up from the research that was commissioned in the past, I think around 2012, by the department, that it is quite clear that community broadcasting will not survive without the support of government. So community broadcasting requires comprehensive support program from the state. And this support is to be provided by the then Department of Communications. Now you'll recall that in 2014, the department was separated into the Department of Communications and the Department of Telecommunications and Postal Services. So it was almost like disintegrated into 2. And after that separation, this support was then transferred to an agency of government, which was at that point part of the Department of Communications, which is an MDDA. Now, currently, MDDA is no longer in the department. It's housed in the presidency in GCIS. There are particular risks shared to this debt continuing to accumulate. So the continued inability of the community broadcasters to pay Centec for the signal transmission continues to remain a risk to Centec's financial position as well as its going concern status. Chair, Centec has been receiving clean audits for the past 8 years. And therefore, this is a matter that is threatening that clean audit. And so the failure by Centec to collect this outstanding debt, which for now constitute approximately 40% of the total debt that is owed to Centec of about 179 million. So this may trigger an audit query from the Auditor General in terms of compliance as stipulated in section 51B of the PFMA. And this section enjoins the entity to collect all the revenue that is due to it. And failure to do that may trigger an audit query, as I said. And so given that the Centec small revenue base, given the fact that Centec has got a small revenue base, this situation is putting the entity's finances under a very extreme pressure, which has already reached intolerable levels. This will definitely affect the going concern status of the company. And so Centec is proposing through their presentation various alternatives of treating this debt. But as you can pick up from my overview, Chair, this is unsustainable. Centec does not have a very big revenue base. And when it accumulates a debt such as this one, it becomes a problem in terms of the going concern status of the company. So, Chair, Centec will be making a detailed presentation, giving us what alternatives are there, how to treat this debt. But going forward, a solution has to be found so that community broadcasting can be supported by the state. Resources could be made available. Unfortunately, from our side, MDDA is no longer in our portfolio. It's sitting in the presidency. And so I think there might have to be a need for a different conversation with the presidency on how they could increase the resources to support community broadcasting. Otherwise, for now, that will be all from my side, Chair. If you do allow, I will invite Centec to take us through the details of their presentation and to tell us who is part of this meeting. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, DM. We are in your hands.
Okay. May I request that the Centec delegation introduce yourself and take the committee through your presentation. Maybe DG, if you can also just greet the honorable members. I know that you are on the platform. Please do that as we invite colleagues from Centec.
Thank you, DM. A very good morning to the Honorable Chair as well as to the honorable members of the Select Committee. My name is Nonkobela Jordan Gyani. I'm the Acting Director General at the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies. Thank you. Chair, Honorable Chair, I was just checking on the platform. I do not see the Centec members on the platform. We did, I don't know if maybe someone could indicate, but we did share with them yesterday the link. I'm not so sure what then is the problem.
Yeah, they are supposed to be here, Chair. I'm assuming that they are attending the meeting because we normally communicate to them to say, this is the date of the meeting. They are the ones who are responsible for preparing the presentation. So if they are not here, Chair, I'm going to request that you give us a minute, maybe about 5 minutes, if we can ask that we adjourn so that we can just establish where they are. They normally just come on their own. We don't really phone them to say the meeting is at 10 o'clock. They are aware. But Chair, I can see now they are not joining, they are not speaking. So may I please request your indulgence, Chair, for about 5 minutes as we establish the whereabouts of the team from Centec.
Okay.
Thanks, DM.
No,
I've shared the link again with the acting CE. The CEO of Centec is out of the country, also on the state visit, honorable members, but this acting CE will be joining shortly. Thank you.
so we can grant you 5 minutes adjournment as they try and join the meeting. Thank you. 5 minutes comfort break.
Recording stopped.
Chair,
DM.
Recording in progress.
Our apologies, Chairperson, for the delay in your meeting. We would like to apologize, Chair. There has been a bit of a miscommunication, it appears, on the side of Centec. As you know, that the board of Centec's term of office has come to an end. So they are operating currently without the board. So the minister is currently busy putting up an interim board. So we don't have a board currently. The CEO is accompanying the minister on the state visit that I've spoken about. And so the other team members were not informed. I think there was a miscommunication that the meeting will take place at 3 o'clock. We'll just clarify them now, but the acting CEO, Mr. Tebogo Leshope, is on the platform. He will take us through the presentation that was prepared by Centec. Our apologies, Chair, once more. May I invite the CEO, the acting CEO, Mr. Tebogo Leshope, to address the members on their presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, DM. Good morning to you, Chair and committee members. Yes, we present to the committee today the impact of community broadcasting on Centec. Chair, if you could, pardon me, I'm on the mobile device and my camera is not as good, so I will request that I do a presentation without the video. So we've put together the few slides to update the committee in terms of the issues that are impacting Centec with regards to community broadcasters. On the first slide, we just give the overall business overview. It is well understood by the committee that we are the largest satellite teleport in South Africa. Hello.
Maybe, Tebogo, can you hear me?
I can hear you, DM.
Let's ask that the presentation be flighted for the members.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's not appearing on the screen now.
Okay.
Chair, can we ask your team to, okay, I see it's coming up now. Thank you.
Yes, so in terms of the first slide, is really just an overview of the business Centec that we have the largest teleport. We have over 300 transmission site networks spread across the country. We do have data centers in that Nasrec in Gauteng province. We also have a fiber ring interconnecting the, if you could go to the first slide. We have the fiber ring interconnecting the data center and the head office and one of the main sites in the Gauteng province. We also are rolling out a project to interconnect all the other sites there. We are a provider of networks that is managed on a 24-hour basis with a spread of operation centers and offices in the country, with 15 offices across the country. You could take us to the next slide, please. Our key areas of focus is content and multimedia. That is what we were primarily established around in terms of radio and television, and later evolved into a a broadband provider, and then we also share the infrastructure that we have with other providers to just make sure that we leverage and harness the capability that we have. In terms of content and multimedia, that's where we do the distribution of radio and television content platform applications. We do the OTT, value add services, and consultancy services. The consultancy services is a new revenue stream that we leverage in the existing capability and on-sell the consulting services to other providers. In terms of ICT services, it's broadband connectivity, as I highlighted, data centers, and the broadband value add services. In terms of infrastructure management, it is the leasing of the facilities to other providers. Then we hosting the other providers on our facilities to particularly leverage the high towers that we have. We also do that consultancy services for local companies and other companies outside the borders of South Africa. Next slide, please. Yes, our network is spread around across the country as highlighted on the map shown here. The yellow highlighting where the head office is, the red highlighting the broadband sites that we have rolled out, and then the green highlighting the broadcast media sites. The blue highlights where the offices are. But to the committee, what we want to highlight is how nationally spread we are in terms of the capability. The greens is where some of the community broadcasters services are at from in terms of this particular presentation of focus. Next slide, please. Now, in terms of the CRBs themselves, we highlight on this presentation the tariff towards the tariff discount towards the community broadcasters, what we are discounting on an annual basis, and then also subtract that from the tariffs and the subsidies that comes from community broadcasters. So the top line there is what we have been discounting year on year since 2014. The tariff towards community broadcasters is discounted significantly compared to other public broadcasters and commercial radio broadcasters. From time to time, the community, the MDDA and the DOC would then subsidize the community broadcasting, and there we highlight what would have been paid by the DOC and what would have been paid by MDDA on an ongoing basis in this particular slide. So on an overall, the community broadcasting have not been meeting their financial obligations as expected in accordance with the tariff, in spite of the discounts that we are giving them. So what we want to highlight back to the committee that the debt coming from the community broadcasters of approximately 40% of the overall debt as at the year end, chairperson and committee members. We do consider this material in light of it being the total debt of 179. So the main issue is they are not meeting their financial obligations here. We have had various engagements with them. Some are paying and some are not able to fulfill their financial obligations. Centec has remained consistent in terms of meeting the services obligations, chairperson. If you could move to the next slide, please. The next slide is therefore then the breakdown of each of the community broadcasting debt broken down into the age of each of the debt. So we have television, community broadcasters. We have radio and in the form of FM and medium wave. So as at the 31st of March 21, you see that FM community total to 62 million, and then medium wave 7 million, and then TV 7 million. And then the different ages are, of course, highlighted in terms of the ages of these issues here, in terms of 120 days, 90 days, and 60 to 90 days, and then 30 to 61 days of those. So then at the bottom, we group them as at the 30th of October. You will see that the months from March to October increases also the death of the community broadcasters. So that's where you have a difference of the 72 and the 75 million that coming from community broadcasting. There has been some movement in terms of the community broadcasters, but I think the main focus for the committee could be the top two rows in terms of indicating what the community broadcasters impact is on the overall debt of the organization. So as at year date, we're looking at the total of 75 million that's coming from broadcasters. We're looking at it from the 30th of October 2021. Next slide, please. So we've also been exploring in terms of how can we support the community broadcasting going forward. We've had some workshops. So our belief is that, and also taken from the feedback that we got from the community broadcasters, is that we lower the operating cost of the service from the community broadcasters as much as it is possible. Wherein then maybe what the investment coming from MDDAs and other partners could be utilized for is for establishment equipment. Then that it's targeting to lower the recurring monthly payment in terms of that. So we are saying that the setup costs should be separated from the recurring monthly costs, where then the support and maintenance on a monthly basis will be lower. That is what will be going to community broadcasters. Currently, the tariff of the community broadcaster is made out of the establishment cost, which is the initial capital expenditure, plus the recurring monthly costs. So this approach will then help us to separate the two. And from a sustainability and affordability point of view, it is our strong belief that once we lower the recurring cost, community broadcasters will be able to afford the recommended cost per person. You can go to the next slide, please. So here we've outlined what the possible partners in terms of the co-funding could be. In other countries, we realize that community broadcasting is sustained through partnership models where they are the voluntary partners of interest, either from a revenue point of view or from the impact of the communications objectives. So we're clustering here to say then there could be co-funding from those interested parties, and it is not just limited to MDDA and the DCDT and Centec, there are others. So on the support and maintenance, then we highlight what we will be taking. The direct cost of establishment and third-party leasing will be to the responsibility of the community broadcaster. And I think at some stage we had an indication where we were saying the net effect of this will be quite significant, where it will take the tariff to below the 50% of the current tariff that we are looking at, which in a way, from a Centec point of view, in support of the community broadcasters, changing the model will improve sustainability of community broadcasters, but also reduce the debt that continue to accumulate on the Centec books in terms of community broadcasting. Next slide, please. Yes, this is just a continuation of the model in terms of what the initial investment is. In the main, when I opened this session, I talked about the breakdown and the key focus areas and the pillars of the new model. So the payback period itself, it's worked out in the process of determining this solution. And then we will also be migrating the current customers into this new model, wherein the migration process means that some of the assets, if they still have life and financial value, will be transferred to the community broadcasters with that value. And then the operations responsibility and management of the service will still remain the responsibility of Centec, and then the billing of such a service will then be passed through to the community broadcasters. The community broadcasters will then take ownership in terms of the assets replacement thereafter. Should there be a need to replace an asset with the partners, they will take care of replacement of the assets. They normally have a good lifespan share. Telecommunications equipment, we're looking at about 5 to 10 years. So once you've made that investment, it should carry the community broadcasters for that period of 5 to 10 years. And then the only responsibility on their side will be the recurring monthly cost, which will be lowered significantly. Next slide, please. We therefore then the chair committee members recommend that the community broadcasters be migrated from the current high tariff model, which incorporates the initial investment and the operational expenditure, be moved to this model that we are recommending, where then the partners that are enabling community broadcasting with community broadcasting will reduce and take care of the initial investment. Then Centec takes care of the operational cost and month-to-month tariff there. We have also, we advise to consider giving a bit more scope to community broadcasters, relaxing the rules of advertising from bringing the balance between sustainability and the funding model. We can, we're also looking at various ways of sustaining community broadcasters themselves, including providing innovative platforms such as ad monitoring. We have enabled over 100 community broadcasters through our satellite platform content syndication. We are pushing through the Parliament channel to some of the community broadcasters. So some of this ad content monitoring, content library, and ad syndications is what Centec will be contributing towards. The Parliament channel offering to the community broadcaster is a CSI initiative from Centec, so we do not charge community broadcasters for that service, Chairperson. Next slide, please. I have highlighted on this that the community broadcasting in most countries, it's a collaboration of interested parties. In South Africa, we have the government and the MDDA contributing towards, but in other countries, it goes slightly beyond just the government. Members of the public do contribute to that. The areas around the interest coverage will also in some countries contribute towards that. So there are those options where then the community broadcasting model could also consider going forward to enhance its funding compared to other countries. Where government grants, we have that already. Members of the public model could be complex. Advertising and content sharing revenues could be ramped up slightly here. We believe that there is an opportunity to improve on the revenues of the advertising. And then, yeah, the license and content, particularly for TV. I think it will be a complex one, but other countries are doing that. And volunteer funding is one of the strongest financial enabler in other countries from our research and point of view. It is something that we're not observing in South Africa. So we believe that that should also be driven to enable sustainability of community broadcasting. Next slide, please. Yes, that is the last slide in terms of the community debt. The net effect of it is the high accumulated debt of 75 million rand, chairperson, and then the issues relates to the conversations we've had in terms of them highlighting that the fee is slightly high. To solve that problem, we are recommending that the model be enhanced to lower the recurring monthly tariff. Hopefully, they solve the community broadcasting challenges. Thank you very much, Chair. Back to you, Dia.
Thank you very much, Tebogo, the acting CEO of Centec. I think in summary, Chair, the impact of this rise in debt it's huge for the organization, for the entity. 70%, 40% of the overall debt, which is carried by community broadcasting, is quite huge. And as we have said, there is a risk that the Auditor General may raise a query relating to this, because this particular section of the MFMA sort of instructs the entity of a public entity to recover the debt or the revenue that is owed to the entity. And as we know that this debt has been raising over a period of time, so it does pose significant risks to the entity. And that's why this conversation is important, in line with what the Centec is recommending. This conversation with the presidency to come up with the final solution to this. As you can see that in 2016, there was a bailout. In 2018, there was a bailout. And so if a bailout doesn't come, the risks is on the entity. So, Chair, in summary, that is the message that
Thank you very much, DM, and thanks for the presentation. We are now going to allow honorable members to interact with the presentation. If there are any clarity seeking question inputs, I see the hand of Honorable BB for now. You can start, Mama.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I'm sorry to come in late. It's because I was from another meeting. Honorable Chair, I've got two questions. The first one will be, if community radios broadcasters constitute about 4% of the money owed to you, I'm also thinking about SABC's debt owed to you. And I'm wondering how all of this money owed to you affects your operations and generally your sustainability as a company. And the second question, Chairperson, will be the merger between you and Broadband Infraco. Now, how do you think it will assist you as a state-owned company in fulfilling the public mandate and government's development objectives. Thank you very much, Chairperson, and also thanks for the presentation, and greetings to all members and to you, Chairperson, and also the department. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Bibi. Honorable Ngwenya, Honorable Arnold, and Honorable Mudise, in that order.
Thanks very much, Chair. And good morning to all the members and the department. Chair, I would like to thank you for recognizing me to make an input and contribution to this meeting following the briefing presentation by the Centec to the community. Our contribution and participation is part of oversight role that we have to exercise over the department and its entities, such as Sentech. Without any further ado, I would like to ask the following question, Chair, on financial difficulties facing by community level media broadcasters. I want to check, Chair, whether strict requirement for licensing with ICA, ICASA, I mean to say, and expensive service fees from sign distribute Centec, and tax obligation are still the cause for financial difficulties faced by community level media broadcasters. Chair, I wanted to check if it's yes, what are the plans for Centec to address the financial difficulties? Are business still not willing to advertise on community broadcast platform? If yes, what are the reasons for the unwillingness? The second question, Chair, on advertising quota, does Centec has any plan to lobby the National Treasury and Department of Communication and Dignitary Technology to enforce advertising quota and community radio platforms? The third question, Chairperson, I want to check with regard to the geography and a provisionally footprint of community television and radio. Which provinces are mostly affected by the impact of inability to pay services provider? Can we get a provisional breakdown in terms of the provinces? As Chair, you know that we are presenting the 9 provinces. On the fourth question, Chair, is on the merger of Centec and BPI. Chair, I want to check what is the update on the merger of Centec and BPI. If the merger still planned to be concluded towards the end of the financial year of 2022 and 2023, can we get an update on the merger? The last question, Chair, what percentage the community radio and television are contributing to Centec review? Chairperson, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Gwenya. Honorable Arnold.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to the Deputy Minister, and then to the department officials, and then also to Centec delegation. Chairperson, yes, let me first thank Centec for their presentation. we all know that the company, Centec, is a Schedule 3B company, which means that the entity must be financially sustainable and self-sufficient. Chairperson, we haven't, the presentation is also mentioned now in terms of a partnership model, but I think there needs to be more in terms of the partnerships engagement and partnership arrangements for the entity, because there must be also a strong focus on that. And we don't see the strong focus on partnerships yet. Then just, Chairperson, there was previously Centec has given discounts. I think SABC, they normally received a 2% discount every year, and then there was a 5.7% discount again during the COVID time for the SABC and a 3-month payment holiday. Was there any improvement in terms of the discounts and also the payment holidays that was given to your customers? And then just an overall matter that I want to raise in terms of the customer relationship, Centec, with your customers. Do you have a good relationship with your customers, and also in terms of engaging your customers when it comes to the services that you are providing? Chairperson, I think I'll pause there for now. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Arnold. Honorable Mdise.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. Please ignore my voice. As you know, I'm from a very difficult flu. Let me greet the Honorable DM and the department and honorable members. Firstly, let me welcome the presentation from Centec. Chairperson, I've got 2 questions. My first question is, Centec now are part of SA Connect project, and I would like to know how far are they with the project and whether they are able to stick on time frame in a view of a COVID-19 pandemic, because maybe they are having a problem because of the COVID-19. My second question is, looking at your recommendation you are making, I'm pursued to ask if whether there is a stakeholder forum that involve CRBs, SABs, and others, where you are able to put your views across and bring a solution, especially regarding the money that you are owed to you. In such, is it such, do we have that forum? Is there a forum? Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mdise. DM and your team, that will be the inputs from honorable members for now. You can respond if there are follow-up questions, we'll deal with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. I'm going to ask that the team, Tebogo and the Acting Director General respond to some of the questions. I think most of them, Tebogo should be able to respond to them as they are specific to a Centec. I will later on come back to deal with the process regarding the merger with BBI. And I think the other questions, Centec, the worker can be able to deal with it. Maybe if the DG can also briefly reflect on the SA Connect, the project, the update, and then I'll come back. So the worker, you can come, and then the DG can just deal with a few of them, and I will come and wrap up. The worker, can you start?
Thank you very much, DM. Thank you, Chair and committee members, for the questions. Yes, I think the first set of questions came from Honorable Bibi. The first one asking how is the debt affecting Centec? Honorable Bibi, the service fee itself includes a portion from other providers that also provide Centec with services, the likes of Eskom, satellite service providers, telecom for linking us. So in this situation, we then having to, as the organization, pay those entities without recovering from community broadcasters. I mean, Eskom fees you have to pay monthly. If you don't do that, the services get terminated. The satellite fees we have to pay monthly. If you don't do that, the services get affected. The workforce that supports the technology itself, we also have to pay them for the skills that they have rendered to the organization. So in the main, this then, and we are fortunate that we have been able to manage this in the past quarter, but it holds back your financial capacity to invest in other projects in the main, Honorable Bibi, and then it is a serious problem for future sustainability. If one imagines that this funds used to pay other service providers could be channeled to other growth initiatives and long-term sustainability initiatives, it is a huge risk for the organization. It's a lot of money if one looks at the total debt in terms of what one could do in terms of growth initiatives. It does delay those projects. So that is the net effect from a strategic and operational point of view. And then your second question was around the BBI Centec merger with regards to the mandate. The DM will come on this one, but I also just reflect initially to say that the BBI and Centec merger is an alignment of the capabilities which we have in our own assessment determined that they are complementary to one another. So we provide the last mile in terms of the towers and the satellites, where BBI provides the backhaul in terms of the fiber. And then what we mean by backhaul is that pulling content from the owners of the content to the towers themselves. We rely on fiber, and that is where the capability of BBI is strong. At this moment, we rely on fiber of BBI and other providers, the likes of Telkom and our own fiber as well. So when you bring in BBI, this stage or aspect of the value chain gets taken care of BBI. The last mile, which is our strength and the biggest capability of Centec, that of distribution towers and satellite, remains still the Centec capability. Now, if you have to look at the two capabilities side by side, committee members, they complete each other, they complement each other to complete the value chain of moving content from, if we have to take the community broadcasters example, we will then use that capability of BBI to move from studios to Centec towers, and then at the towers, we have that capability already. So with regards to the mandate, it strengthens our capability to deliver on our obligations and mandate as the new company is envisaged, and we do believe it is the right thing. It's premised on growth, so we do foresee a brighter future and enabled SDIC when the two strategic capabilities are brought together. And then we had questions from Honorable Winnie in terms of the financial difficulty impact on us as to what is our contribution as the organization. Compared to other customers, we have reduced quite significantly the community broadcasting tariff. We continue to give other value adds. In our presentation, we highlighted in terms of making the Parliament content and other content syndication needs to community broadcasters without cost, Honorable Winnie. So that cost is borne by Centec. It's without cost to community broadcasters, but we take care of the capability and the facility that has been provided, targeting to strengthen community broadcasting, understanding its impact from a diversification point of view, and access to information for the public of South Africa. And then your second question was whether we have a plan to engage NT and the DCDT to support the community broadcasters. Yes, this conversation has started. Previously, the department used to have an allocation for community broadcasters, but I believe as the Fiscus declined, this became a challenge. The ADG will comment on this one, but our conversation has started to say, within the new model, this is how we see things work with the department and other partners learning from other countries, contributing towards sustainability of community broadcasters. So that conversation has started, Honorable Bibi. The ADG will come in on this point. The footprint, we have in the excess of 140 community broadcasters in the country, and they are dispersed across various provinces. What we will do from Centec is to allocate that per province. That was not something that we did for this particular presentation. We took it higher level total that, and then make this information available for the committee. There are community broadcasters in each of the provinces and across the country. And we have TVs. TVs are mainly in Joburg, KZN, and the Western Cape, but community radio is spread across all provinces. We will break down their depth, Honorable Winnie, and then make this information available to the committee. And then your fourth question related to measure of Centec BBI, DM and ADG will come in on this one. Your fifth question was, what is the debt split? I think we have highlighted it as 40% on the presentation there, but before I step off, the CFO will come in just to confirm the that figure as it maybe year to date now. I believe the CFO has now just joined. Moving on to Honorable Arnold, we appreciate your inputs that we need to do more. Indeed, we shall do so. As I highlighted, we understand the important role of community broadcasting to lobby more partners to contribute towards the community media sustainability. We did have a workshop, it was in 2019, if I recall, in August, thereabout, where we called all stakeholders to a discussion on how can community media be sustained. Centec did provide its inputs there. The department has all the inputs of the other key stakeholders there. And that is what is guiding our modeling of the community broadcasters sustainability model going forward. But we do agree, maybe we need to hold these workshops much more frequent so that we can be aligned to the changes of time. In terms of the holiday payments, how we approached it, Honorable Arnold, if a customer did not request a holiday payment, we did not offer that facility to them. There are some community broadcasters that approach Centec for a holiday payment, which we considered positively in their interest, and other customers of Centec, but it will only be applicable for somebody whose account was up to date. That was one condition that we made. So for majority community broadcasters, it was a challenge because when you request the holiday payment, your debt needs to be up to date. And then the state of our relationship with customers. Look, it's a fair state. You will understand that when somebody owes a customer owes a service provider, there could be that slight decline in the relationship because you are sending demands for service, threatens to terminate services and things like that. But what we have provided from Centec from a structure and contact point of view, it's account managers for community broadcasters, which are available. They engage community broadcasters on an ongoing basis to ensure that the relationship remains intact, Honorable Arnold. We also have the physical service manager in those operation centers that I showed you earlier, the 15 OCs across the country. The service managers are available for community broadcasters. They are the managers that are visiting the community broadcasters from time to time with matters related to service management. So with this approach, we are able to manage relationships and ensure that the service continues properly. Then Honorable Tebogo asked the question as to whether this will also be linked to the impact of COVID. Yes, to some extent, the advertising revenues were affected by COVID, but majority broadcasters have been able to meet their obligations, Honorable Tebogo. So in our view, COVID did not affect.
Honorable Mudise, not Tebo.
Yes, Chair, Honorable Mudise. Honorable Mudise, the COVID impact, in our view, should not be to the extent that the broadcaster will not be able to fulfill its financial obligation on the service that has been provided. Other broadcasters are still able to meet their obligations, Honorable Modise. Your second question, is there a form of addressing community broadcasting issues? I think the workshop that I mentioned was one of the collaboration approach towards addressing the community broadcasting as a forum or an industry. Yes, I do acknowledge, similarly to Honorable Arnold, Honorable Mudisa, that we can improve on that. So I think from here on, we'll try to collaborate and establish more of those in alignment and towards implementing the new model. Chair DM, I'd like the CFO to come in on the split just to verify the year-to-date split of community broadcasting debt against the total debt of the organization. DM, before you come in. CFO?
Yes, thanks, Tebogo, Honorable DM and members. Thank you. The split of community radio broadcasters currently ranges between 30 and 40% of our total loan book. For the year to date, in terms of the amount outstanding from the community radio broadcasters, it is an approximate amount of 76 million rand in comparison to our total debtors of 230 million rand, which is approximately 32% of our debt book. Thank you, Tebogo. Over to you.
Thank you, Com. DM, over to you.
Thank you very much, Tebogo. DG.
Thank you, DM. Once again, a very good morning to the honorable members. I would like to just touch on the two questions posed in terms of what the department is working on. The first, honorable members, was on the update with regards to the SA Connect. Just to inform that we have completed the phase 1 of the SA Connect, which was basically focusing on the 8 districts. In this regard, we have connected just over 970 sites in those 8 districts, and mainly focusing on your public facilities, which is then schools, the health clinics, as well as critical government institutions. Honorable members, following this and looking at the amount it needed, I just want to indicate that initially we had quite an extensive amount prior to around 2018, where then we had to review that, and that at first it was taking the amount was reduced for us in terms of allocation to accommodate the fees must fall, subsidizing therefore higher education. The second cut that we then experienced was obviously during COVID, again, where then we had, as government, they had to then reprioritize the budget. This then led to us having to come, we developed a feasibility study with the hopes that we would be able to identify a new model for the SA Connect. Following the appointment, which is what we did in the last financial year, following the cabinet announcement by the president, the minister and the deputy minister embarked on quite an extensive stakeholder engagement, mainly with our state-owned entities as well as within the private sector, to then see what new model can we possibly look at in terms of collaboration to expand on the connectivity. In this regard, the department has come up with a revised model, which is still to be approved by the minister and the DM. And this basically talks to aggregating all of the government's infrastructure, whether it is within our portfolio as the ICTs or in other sectors, which can be modified or upgraded to then ensure the connectivity. The objective is then to work with the private sector on the new model in terms of closing the gaps, and this will also ensure that with the private sector, they come, especially the SMMEs and entrepreneurs and innovators in the space, can also come in with various proposals in terms of innovation to close the gap and to ensure that the public facilities across the country, as well as Wi-Fi deployment to homes, irrespective of whether you are living in an urban or rural area, that we are then able to ensure that there is access. We know now, especially during the COVID period, that ICT connectivity remains a huge priority or a critical asset for all. Just to indicate that the pilot, we will also embark on a pilot model now that we have been working with our entities as indicated, and I will talk further on that in terms of the repurposing and the merger between Centec and BBI, as well as the involvement of CETA. We are then using the funding that has been allocated by the respective entities, including that funding which has been allocated to USASA, to ensure that we do therefore the network deployment or ICT connectivity in this financial year. And that particular model, we're hoping therefore we will work with other stakeholders, especially industry players, in as far as ensuring broadband access in South Africa, at least by 80% achieved by 2024, in line with the MTSF goals. And that is the minimum that we want to achieve. Ideal, we are aiming for 100% broadband connectivity across the country. In this regard, as you would know, honorable members, that we're currently now in the process of the allocation of spectrum, and therefore we are coming up with new obligations to those who would therefore be licensed in the spectrum, both in the provisional spectrum as well as the permanent spectrum, to ensure then that they have these obligations that will assist us in ensuring that we achieve, therefore, connectivity to all, and not only connectivity, but affordable connectivity to all households, people, as well as the public facilities across the country. Honorable members, if I can then move on just very briefly on the issues of the merger. As you would know, that it is also one of the priorities as part of repurposing the state, and it is a program that is being run by from the Office of the President, together led by the Department of Public Enterprises. And in this regard, we committed that we would look at the merger of Centec and BBI, along with the repurposing of CETA, as well as, and also then the looking at also the reorganization of our regulators, as we know that we have 3 regulators in the ICT space. With regards to the merger between Centec and BBI, processes are underway. We've done a business case between the two, and in this regard, we are now exploring the various options. What we would like to do is to basically have what is in our policy, ICT policy white paper. Policy is the fact that we want to have a state digital ICT infrastructure company, what we call the big infraco. We are now assessing the legislation, the acts of the 2 entities, to then see in the provisional phase, as we move towards the final merger, how then they can collaborate and work together. And one of those programs already that we're repurposing them in as far as closing this connectivity gap in the country. Centec, as you know, has got the expertise in terms of satellite, and therefore can look at Wi-Fi deployment as well, while BBI then is looking at your terrestrial network rollout. So the two together complement each other, and therefore in the new company, the broad infrastructure company, we would still ensure that the services of the two complement each other, in line with our policy, which looks at technology neutrality in the deployment of ICT networks. And then with regard, so we're also engaging the regulator because of the licensing provisions of the 2 entities, to ensure that we don't lose any of the licenses. In fact, we want to make sure that we capitalize on that, and ideal then to see, even going into the future, what other assets they may possibly require. So there is a working and arrangement. We've already established a technical team. There was also a ministerial oversight committee, joint oversight committee forum that was also looking at the 2 boards collaborating with regards to this particular measure. And I think the DM and the minister will make further announcements going forward. I think those are the questions, DM, from my side. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Acting Director General and the CFO. Chair, just briefly on the merger. It's a process that we are looking at finalizing by the end of this financial year. Those are the plans. Obviously, we will evaluate the extent to which we are moving in meeting the targets for the 31st of March. It's a bit ambitious, but we are working on that. As the DG was saying, the approach has changed initially. I'm sure previously you might have been briefed that this merger will require that there has to be amendment of the legislation, the empowering legislation, or the enabling legislation for the two entities will have to be amended. So when we looked at that process, it's a process that might take quite a long time. And that's why the view now is that we should explore the possibility of one entity acquiring another one. So acquisition, which will then lead to a completely new entity. So that is something that we're exploring currently. We are taking experiences from similar processes in other government departments that were conducted in the recent past. So that's something that we are looking at currently. The two boards, the two entities has been engaged. They are working towards that. It's a process that will more be guided legally. So the legal services has been also engaged to try and expedite that process. Part of the reason why the board of Centec cannot be established fully is that we don't want to come up with a new board now when this process of merger is underway. So the minister is looking at establishing an interim board, and that process is underway to establish a state digital infrastructure company. I think the other questions have been responded to. In the overall, Chair, what we could say is that the sooner this issue of the death of community broadcasters is attended to, the better. I think the sooner there is a long-term solution found, the better for community broadcasting, for community media. And as I said before, this should be a conversation that must take place between ourselves and the presidency, GCIS, MDDA, so that we can find a long-term solution to this. It's unfair as it is now to expect an entity such as Centec to carry the burden, my apologies, to carry the burden of providing this signal distribution for the broadcasting of community media, because it introduces the risk that I was talking about. We should not allow the entity that has been run so well in the past to regress from obtaining the clean audit that it has been obtaining over the 8 years to receiving qualified audit as a result of this issue that can be attended to. Otherwise, Chair, thank you very much for allowing us to engage and respond to your question. If there is any matter that requires some clarification, we are in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DM and your team. Thank you very much. I want to check from honorable members if we still have follow-up questions. Yeah, looking at the chat there, I don't see a hand raised in terms of follow-up. There were key issues that were raised there, DM. Firstly is the issue around the provincial footprint of the discussion we were having, that will request Centec to go back and look at it and give maybe 2-5 slides report on the provincial footprint in terms of the impact of the community radios and TV deaths. The other key issue that would want a briefing from your side would request you to come back again is the issue around the merger between Centec and BBI. We had committed last time that we might want you back just to give us a brief, more especially towards the end of the financial year, just the progress in relation to the merger. We really want to thank you, DM, together with your team, for having made time to come to us and make a presentation. It is also our considered view that indeed Centec must not regress. If an entity is getting clean audit, we must support it to continue to get clean audits. Otherwise, if it regrets, then it creates a lot of challenges. While we are dealing with entities that are not performing well, we must give support to those entities that are doing well so that they can then give services to our people. Thank you very much, DM, for your time, and together with your team, we can release you and remain as the committee. Like I said, we'll call you back to deal with the issue around the merger and the progress in relation to the merger between Centec and BBI. Thank you, DM.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much to the members.
Thank you, Chair and honorable members. Have a good day.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Chair. Thank you, honorable members.
Thank you, Tiugo.
Thank you, honorable members. Goodbye.
Bye bye, CFO. Honorable members, I think we can then deal with the internal issues, the minutes. The minutes were forwarded to honorable members. I'm sure everybody has got those minutes. Did we receive the minutes?
Yes, Chairperson, we did receive the minutes on time.
Okay. Can we get somebody who moves for the adoption of the minutes if there are no corrections?
Thanks very much, Chair. I would like you to adopt the minutes as it is. Thank you.
Honorable Ngwenya moves for the adoption of the minutes. Any secondment?
I second Honorable Kungwenya.
Honorable Mudise, not Honorable Tivuko, second the minutes. You are fighting with Tivuko because you have got the same name.
Alina na kiriki na marka kasheba surname no waruna ki Mudise.
Yeah, she doesn't want to share the same name with the acting CEO.
CEO.
No, but when we are in the meeting, these people, they must not call us with our first name.
No, maybe he didn't recognize your your surname.
I know you know.
It's okay. Thank you very much, honorable members. I think we'll see each other next week. Thank you very much, honorable members.
Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you,
Thank
Chair.
you, Mama. Thank you, Mama.
How are you, Mama?
How are you, Mama?
I'm fine, Mama. And you, Mama?
Meetings are killing me today, Mama. Hey.
Oh.
Are we
Do we have
okay, guys?
Hello?
Dinner is tomorrow, eh?
Oh,
2 o'clock.
Huh?